I never imagined that something as simple as a text message could unravel so much. My wife, Sarah, had always been playful, teasing, and sometimes borderline careless with her words. But this time, she crossed a line. It started with a text she sent one quiet evening, laughing about my retirement fund. The words seemed innocent at first glance, a joke, a sarcastic tease. But the tone, the timing, the underlying mockery, all of it stung more than I expected. I stared at my phone, the laughter emoji still blinking from her message. Something inside me tightened. Over the years, Sarah and I had built our lives together carefully. Long nights working, saving, planning for a future where we could retire comfortably, travel, and enjoy the fruits of our hard work. And here she was, making light of everything I had strived for. My first reaction was disbelief. Why would she joke about something so important? The next few days were tense. Sarah didn't seem to notice the change in my demeanor. She carried on as usual, chatting with friends, going out occasionally and laughing freely. But I couldn't shake the thought that this was more than a harmless joke. Something felt off, like a crack had appeared in the foundation of trust we had built. I started paying closer attention to her messages, the way she smiled when I mentioned finances, and the little comments she made around our friends. Then, one afternoon, the real twist began to unfold. Sarah received a call from her co-worker, a man named Michael, who had always been friendly but nothing more. As I overheard their conversation from the next room, I realized that her laughter, her teasing, had opened the door to something far bigger. She spoke lightly, casually joking about how I spent my life working too hard and saving for a future I'd never fully enjoy. But the way Michael responded, subtle hints, playful encouragement, suggested he was feeding into her mischief. The combination of her jokes and his reactions created a situation I hadn't anticipated. Over the next few weeks, I observed quietly. I didn't want to confront Sarah prematurely, nor did I want to escalate things without understanding the full picture. I watched as her casual remarks about our retirement fund became more frequent, more pointed, almost as if she was testing a boundary I hadn't even known existed. And then it hit me. The small joke that had seemed harmless was part of a larger shift in dynamics, one that could jeopardize the future we had meticulously planned. I realized something crucial. The moment someone treats your life, your hard work, or your values as a joke, it's a warning. It's the first sign of a deeper disconnect, one that could lead to consequences far beyond a single laugh or sarcastic text. And in that moment, I knew that patience, observation, and strategy would be key in handling what was about to unfold. As the days passed, Sarah continued to treat our retirement fund like a punchline. Every mention of savings, investments, or future plans became an opportunity for a joke or a sly comment. She didn't realize how carefully I was observing her, recording every remark, noting patterns in her behavior, and considering the ripple effects of her attitude. It wasn't about money. It was about respect, accountability, and understanding the value of what we had built together. One evening, I decided to test the waters. I casually brought up an upcoming meeting with our financial advisor, mentioning a potential change in our investment strategy. Sarah laughed, saying, "Don't worry, you'll probably blow it all by then anyway." Her voice was light, but I caught the sharp edge beneath it. That's when I realized that her jokes weren't harmless. They were reflective of a deeper disregard for our partnership. The next step was to let the consequences unfold naturally. I didn't want to confront her impulsively. I needed her to see the impact of her words. A month later, I had arranged a small private meeting with our financial advisor. just the two of us. I knew the advisor would present the numbers, projections, and possible risks associated with any reckless decisions. When Sarah joined me, thinking it was just a routine check-in, I could already sense the subtle tension. As the advisor reviewed our portfolio, the facts became undeniable. Our retirement savings were secure, but any deviation, any impulsive spending or careless decisions could jeopardize the future we had painstakingly planned. I watched Sarah's expression shift gradually from casual amusement to disbelief and finally to genuine concern. The joke she had made, the light-hearted teasing, collided with the reality of her actions' potential consequences. For the first time, she understood that her words carried weight, and her laughter had blinded her to the seriousness of what was at stake. That day marked a turning point. Sarah sat quietly for a long moment, processing the numbers, absorbing the gravity of her behavior, and realizing how close she had come to undermining everything we had worked for. I didn't say much. I let the facts speak for themselves. There's a power in observation, in strategic patience, and in letting someone confront the reality of their actions without a direct confrontation. By the end of the meeting, the shock had settled in. Sarah looked at me differently, a mix of respect and understanding in her eyes. The playful teasing, the laughter at something so important had ended. Not because I forced it, but because reality had enforced its lesson. It was a reminder that accountability sometimes comes quietly, subtly, but leaves an indelible mark that no joke can erase. After that meeting, the atmosphere between Sarah and me changed. The playful teasing and careless remarks about our retirement fund vanished almost overnight. She seemed more aware, more thoughtful, as if she had finally grasped the consequences of her actions. It wasn't about punishment or humiliation. It was about understanding and accountability. That 1 month of observation, patience, and letting reality speak for itself had shifted her perspective completely. Over the following weeks, I noticed subtle changes in her behavior. She began participating more seriously in our financial planning, asking questions, and showing genuine interest in the future we were building together. It was a stark contrast to her previous flippant attitude. What had started as a joke had turned into a lesson in responsibility, respect, and foresight. Sarah learned that some things, hard work, planning, and security, aren't subjects for mockery. They are foundations of trust in a partnership, and once tested, they demand attention and care. The experience taught me a broader lesson as well. Humor can be a way to bond, to relieve tension, or to entertain. But when it targets something as critical as someone's life, efforts, or values, it becomes a subtle form of disrespect. The best response isn't confrontation or anger. It's awareness, patience, and letting the natural consequences unfold. Sarah's shock wasn't engineered through lectures or arguments. It came from facing the truth she had dismissed lightly for so long. I remember sitting one evening on the porch, looking out at our new home, reflecting on the past month. Sarah joined me quietly, not joking, not laughing, just present. She leaned against my shoulder and said softly, "I didn't realize. I see now that acknowledgement, sincere and thoughtful, meant more than any argument I could have had. It was a sign that the lesson had been internalized, that respect had been restored, and that our partnership had grown stronger. By the end of this ordeal, I understood that accountability doesn't always need to be imposed forcefully. Sometimes it's about creating circumstances where the truth is unavoidable, where actions reveal character, and where lessons are learned through experience rather than confrontation. Sarah's playful mocking had inadvertently set the stage for growth, for awareness, and for a renewed commitment to our shared life. That month, filled with quiet observation, subtle tension, and the revelation of consequences, became a defining chapter in our marriage. It reminded me that trust, respect, and understanding are earned daily, and that even seemingly small jokes can have profound impacts. Sarah's laughter had been replaced with comprehension. And in that shift, our future, once threatened by carelessness, was secured. Not through force, but through clarity and the undeniable power of truth.